How's it? How's it? How you been?
Hey, I'm good. I'm
How you
good. How
been?
you doing, though?
I mean, we're getting there. We're getting there. Taking things slowly. Everything is just moving nicely. We're
Yeah.
just excited about a lot of things. Especially this coming weekend. Very excited. Because
Okay.
this weekend, we got a nice match coming up this weekend. We got a nice match. We got a very very nice match coming up this weekend.
Mm,
Quarterfinals. You think we're gonna bring it home?
mm. You're talking about
You-
Springboks versus France.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Are you confident?
But before we get into that, tell the people that are possibly gonna watch this, like what we doing here? What are we doing here? What is this?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Me being, I'm too excited. So, to everybody that's, we'd like to welcome you. Some formalities to welcome you to late night convos. Where this is gonna be like a nightcap. We're just having just random conversations, late at night. Anything on what's happening, anything that's happening in and around the globe in and around the country. Just generic conversations, what we think, just raw and robust, and just that's it. From time to time, every night, not every night, but from time to time, every now and again. And but it will be mainly 9 o'clock, maybe once a week, 9 o'clock. So yeah, but we
Yeah,
wanting to
cause
make it like maybe a Sunday thing. So
yeah, the
yeah,
thing is like you always see people like most people like fall asleep on social media, like they go on like TikTok or they go on like Instagram reels and stuff, and they fall asleep to that. So like, why not create a situation whereby instead of doing that, we get people to come and join us in the conversation. There's so
you
many
know.
things going on in the world. There's so many things going on in the country that you know why not just create a platform where people can just come and chill out, dog. Chill out, talk about sports, talk about the weather, talk about girlfriends, boyfriends, talk about all of that. Obviously, we want to touch on things like important things that are also happening in the country, but I think this is a
Yeah, yeah,
nice nightcap. This is a nice nightcap.
yeah.
I
Indeed,
mean, I'm wearing a
indeed,
cap
indeed.
now, but it's not a night. It's not a nightcap. It's
In
just
the
a cap.
night cab. Good one, good one. Wearing cap in the night. But then, yeah, man.
No capping.
Hey,
No capping in this
no
in this thing.
capping. But then, yeah, man. I like the emphasis on the we trying to make it to like things in and around. So like maybe like for like maybe just maybe like for like just like maybe. What do you think is the one thing that you think is like currently happening just in and around? Maybe should we start by the Springboks? Should we start there, or do you have another one that you thought
I want to talk
you
about.
wanted?
I want to talk about that fake doctor, bro. Who's that? Who's that? What's the situation there? Like, have you been following it? Like what's going on there?
Actually, I didn't know this thing. I was just scrolling the other day. The next thing I'm seeing like a statement, like somebody shared a statement that's been like released by Wits University. Then they were like Dr. Matthews, something about Dr. Matthews Nanani is not a doctor and is not Wits University doesn't know who this person is and that sort of thing. And then today I came across another one. This I don't
The
know who's
girl, the
Doctor.
girl
Yeah, the girl from who's a
from
pharmacist.
Limpopo.
Limpopo. Yes, exactly. It was like from University of Limpopo, and they were like, no, we don't know who this person is. She's faking that she's a master's candidate. And damn, like what do you think about that? That's pretty insane.
For me, it's like okay. Well, let's start with the Dr. Lani one. Like, why would you do that? Like, for me, it's like okay. Let's say if it's true, because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, all of this is going on, and it obviously he looks very bad. But I'm just gonna preface everything by saying allegedly, or if it's true, because you just don't
Yeah,
wanna
yeah,
be those oaks. But
yeah, definitely.
I just think it's unfortunate that people feel the need to fake it till you make it, so to speak. Maybe in his mind, he's already made it. So I mean, he faked it until he became it. So who like you I just feel like it shows the deeper sense of like of what it's basically a small case of how the world is really going. Like people want to just like shortcut it to the top, dude. You know,
Want the easy way out.
people are doing things. People are. This is more endemic of the fact that people are doing things for likes and that dopamine fix. You know, that dopamine
Yeah.
fix of people just saying I'm amazing. People saying I'm whatever. You know, and the thing that's scary about this whole thing for me is like each like universities are coming out saying we don't know the guy, the departments are coming out saying we don't know the guy, or he's never studied this. All these different institutions are saying this and he's still doubling down. He's still like, hey, I'm you know, and he's still posting, like he's still going live on TikTok
On
in the
TikTok, yeah.
hospital, you know. So I don't know, like I haven't followed it properly, but it's just for me, it just seems like a forget about him. A lot of people out there are a lot of Dr. Lanis out there in this country
Exactly.
in
And
different
and and and
forms.
and, and like, sorry to interject. My thing is like, my thing is like, if you can do that and then you actually get away with it by actually getting employed as a, because I think they like he's employed as a doctor, am I right? He works in some hospital or some
Well,
pharmacy type
just
of work.
I think what gave him credibility was I think the Department of
How?
I want to say education or maybe health in
Yeah.
Gauteng were like put him on some youth day thing where they
Yeah, yeah,
celebrated like
that's actually the
young,
thing.
yeah, and he was like one of the doctors on there. So that gave him legitimacy. So yeah, I
That
don't know where he works. I don't know what his story is in terms of actual employment.
so now that points out like a fallacy from the Department of Health, if I can put it, like, if I can put it that way. Because like, how would they put in somebody who's not an actual doctor, who poses to be an actual doctor? It's like a similar thing, like to like a the Tabo Bester thing. It's like not ideally directly similar, but how do they poke these loopholes into like the system? Like, how does thing happen? Like, who's at fault, if I can put it that way?
The thing is, like, I still don't know how he, like, what is the thing that made him like get outed, so to speak? Like, what was it that did he say something? Because I mean, apparently he's been doing this for years. So like, did he say something that's unusual? Did someone like what?
Mess
Like,
with the
I don't
wrong
know what.
person,
Huh?
or mess with the wrong person?
Could be, or maybe some product that I think he's also selling some product. So I think that
Yeah.
might have made him like I don't know something. Someone must have gotten some like adverse, you know, um thing happen to
Hey
them
man.
health wise. So just, but I don't know how he got outed. But I think you have to put some blame at the doorstep of government in this issue. In this instance, you can't, for example, you can't be a policeman and masquerade. You can't masquerade as a policeman in this country, right? Because like that's against the law. But people that feel like they can get away with this stuff, like for example, like if he knows he's a fake doctor and he's walking around a hospital wearing stuff, that shows like the checks and balances in our system. There's something wrong there because someone in the hospital should be saying, okay, this person shouldn't be walking around like this. All our scrubs, all our stuff are accounted for. How is he getting
Yeah.
scrubs that go with everyone else's scrubs that work at that particular hospital that makes him not suspicious, for example? Like, so for me, I feel like for him to get away with it for so long, you have to put some blame at the hand at the door of government in the sense that it gives him credibility. But I don't like to blame other people when clearly this guy is just, you know, he's just a criminal. He's just what's the other word when you try to act like you, he's an imposter. He's an
He's
imposter,
an
and
imposter.
maybe
Yeah, yeah.
maybe he's living out some lifelong dream of his to be a doctor, but it's a funny way to do it. So I don't know who you blame. I just think you don't blame like one person per se. but government's laxness has definitely contributed to like helping him go for this long.
There's like a ripple effect. So these guys is like, so if I can put it in a certain way, there are multiple figures who are like this out there somewhere. And such people, I like to refer to them as terrorists, in a way, because like they're not doing any good for our like country and things like that. And speaking about like terrorists,
Terrorist is
do you
pretty
know there's
extreme,
like
though.
no man, but then it is what it is. It's just how they people would normally label them. So and this word terrorists has just enlightened a thing in my mind, which is what's happening overseas. There's like a terrorist group. They say it's a terrorist group, the Hamas or something like that. Do you know those? Do you know like the Hamas basically invaded Israel and that sort of thing. So are you aware of the Israel Palestine situation?
Yeah. Well, before I go into that, like, what are your views on it? Because like I feel like because you what? How old are you? You 19, right? 18.
I'm 19, yeah. 18 turning 19 in less than a month. So
So you 18 and you're 19 and you're seeing whatever coverage you're seeing of what's going on in Israel and Palestine right now. What is going through your mind? Like, what are you thinking? Like, are you thinking,
okay,
hey, I
for
don't know
me,
enough to say anything? Are you thinking, yo, this is terrible? Are you thinking, why now? What are you thinking?
actually, I can't conclude as to like what am I thinking because it's a matter of I've never really followed this thing because I remember a few years ago, I think in 2019, we were marching for something like Free Palestine. So like I never did the research back then as to like what's actually happening. Even now, I never like recently, like this past weekend, because I think the terrorist attack happened last weekend. So it was never like it didn't actually like click in my head at the time. Let me actually try and find out like what is it that's actually happening. But then I'd like to hear from you if you perhaps know like what's fully happening and that sort of thing. You know?
Yeah. Well, see, I'm always hesitant to get into group discussions about topics, hectic topics like this, because this Israel Palestine thing isn't a worldly. It doesn't just have worldly connotations to it. Like it's actually got spiritual origins, like deep spiritual origins that I feel like for people to really be invested in it, or for people to really offer like an opinion on it, I really think people need to understand the spiritual ramifications of what's going on and why that part of the world is always experiencing um the as you said, like in
The
2019 there was stuff going on. Like I feel like every year there's always reports of like Israel like doing
some
Israeli army doing
yeah.
something to the Palestinian people. And I think just people don't understand the origins of this. So for my understanding, for my limited spiritual understanding of this, is that you have a situation where you have three religions. You have Judaism, you have Christianity, and then you have Islam. And
Islam. Yeah.
all of these religions believe in the fact that Jesus is gonna come, right? So
Yeah.
in the case of Judaism, they believe that the Messiah, which we all know as Jesus, the Messiah is coming. They believe that the Messiah is still coming. They don't believe that the Jesus that came at that time was actually Jesus. And I think I'll get into that a little bit. But and then Christians and Jew and Muslims, Christians and Muslims also believe that Jesus is coming, but for different reasons. Like
Coming, yeah.
Christians believe that Jesus came and then he was killed
He's gonna come back
and
again.
then he's gonna come back. Whereas in Islam, Allah says that Jesus died on the cross, but he made it appear as if he died. So the people that saw it happening on the day would have looked at it and said Jesus died on the cross, but in
Yeah.
fact, God just took him back. He didn't die or anything, and therefore he's gonna come back. But now the question is, why is Jesus coming back? Because the understanding of the Israeli Palestine situation, you have to understand why Jesus is coming back. And to answer that, you have to go all the way back to King Solomon and King
BC.
David and King David times. Because remember, and then also you have to understand the genealogy of the Israelites, because I think a lot of people also don't understand that. Like, when we talk about Israelites, what are we talking about? You know,
About
for,
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
because and feel free to interject, by the way. Don't let me like ramble on. Like, I don't wanna,
No,
I
no,
want
no,
us
no. Don't worry.
to talk.
I'm waiting for the perfect moment. I'm waiting for the
Yeah.
perfect
So
moment to interject.
so I think that's why sometimes I'm a bit hesitant to go into this, because it can be a long answer, but sometimes I think to complex issues you need, you know, not complex answers, but you need very detailed answers. So I usually start the understanding from, let's understand the genealogy first. When we talk about Israelites, what are we talking about? So you have you have Abraham, the prophet Abraham. He makes a prayer to God, and he says, basically, in paraphrasing, please bless my descendants, and make them lead, and basically also make them leaders of their people. So, and then God grants them this wish, basically. So that means in both of his lines, he's gonna have prophets. So on the one line that Christians and everyone basically knows is like Isaac, and then it's Jacob, and then it's the 12 sons of Jacob, and so on. But there's the other line where Islam comes from, where it's Ishmael, and Islam is Ishmael, and then from his line down, when the Prophet of Muhammad comes in, that's where the Prophet Muhammad comes in, from the Ishmael line. But all the other prophets come from the Isaac line, from Abraham's children. So Isaac has Jacob. Jacob then has 12 sons, right? Jacob's name changes to Israel. Jacob's name changes to Israel. So if if Israel, now he's called Israel, has 12
Changes to
sons,
Israel.
yes, his
Changes to
name,
Israel.
Jacob's name changes to Israel. Yes.
Ah,
So
okay.
if his name changes to Israel, now you're gonna call his kids children not of Jacob anymore. You're gonna call them children of Israel,
Israel. Yes.
right?
So they're
Okay.
Israelites.
Thank you. Now you see. Now the nice thing about breaking it down like this, now you can also deal with other issues like difference between a clan and a tribe, for example. Because a clan
Yeah.
is by surname, right? And then a tribe is a collection of
Forms a
clans
tribe.
that come
Forms a
together
tribe.
and say, this is how we're gonna live, this is how we, So the tribe sort of creates a culture for itself, right? But God never refers to the Israelites, children of Israel, he never refers to them as Jews or anything. He always talks about them as children of Israel.
Israel.
That's
Yes.
that's what in the
100%.
Quran, especially, the children of Israel. Are you still there? Looks like you've
I'm still there. I'm
frozen a
listening.
little bit.
I'm listening. I'm
Yeah.
listening. I'm listening.
So I'm still explaining the genealogy of everything so that we understand when I start
Then
talking later
yeah,
on.
to get a proper foundation.
So
If the foundation
yeah.
is
So
shaky,
are we good?
yeah, I can hear you. I'm listening. I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Okay. So you have the children of Israel. Jacob's name is changed to Israel. Now the prominent person that comes out of the children of Israel. Remember, they are still in Canaan. At that time, it's Canaan. It was called, but basically Palestine now. You know, Jordan, Israel, basically that part of the world now. That's where
So, so
they. That's where.
can I
Yeah,
interject quickly? Can I ask a
yeah,
question?
yeah, yeah.
So would you say, based on that, would you say like Israel and Palestine are one of one of the most strongly spiritual places around the world. Because
Very
dude, have
spiritual.
you, so have you heard
Very
have
spiritual.
you I don't know if you've heard of this thing called the chakras of the world. So like Egypt becomes one of those, and then the like several other places along the globe. So would you say like Israel and Palestine would constitute to being one of those in a way?
Are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think it's sketchy on your side now.
Sketchy. Eish, 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 eish. But can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Anymore? Just said it's reconnecting. Okay,
I don't
now,
know what's going on.
okay, now I've got you.
Okay, 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 okay. Now continue with your explanation. I just felt like
Yeah, yeah.
I was gonna we're gonna ramp us off.
No, 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 no. Don't worry, don't worry. We got all the time in the world. So, so I was saying that the prominent son that comes out of that is the story of Joseph, right? So remember, Joseph, his brothers are Joseph's brothers are envious of the love that the father shows to Joseph. The father being Jacob, who's now Israel, right? Um, so they're envious of that. And then what ends up happening is they hatch a plan to get rid of him, to get rid of Joseph. So
They
they
conspired against him.
then, pardon?
They conspired against him.
Yeah, they conspired against him, and they basically the other 10, because I'm gonna say the other 10 because there's another son of Jacob that was called Benjamin, and Benjamin was very young, and he was actually very much close with Joseph. So the other 10 hatched the plan to get rid of Joseph, and they were going to kill him. And then that's why he ends up in the well. He ends up in the I'm not sure how familiar you are with the story, but he ends up in the well. He's probably like 10, 9 years old, somewhere there. He ends up in the well. They think they've killed him. The brothers think they've killed Joseph, right? So obviously he's screaming, whatever. Then people that, because remember at that time people were traveling on horses and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
they hearing someone
they hear
shouting,
him.
they see a little boy, because there's travel, lots of traveling. Obviously oaks aren't getting on planes at that time, So
Yeah,
they take him
yeah.
out, and then he gets taken from Jordan or from Canaan to Egypt, right? He gets sold as a slave to a minister or a high ranking official in Egypt, right? Okay. And then there he's a slave, but remember he's a man of God. Joseph is a man of God. He he's a, he shows exemplary character, whatever, whatever.
Whatever,
So
yeah.
but then also Joseph's trial, his trial, is that he's an extremely attractive man, extremely attractive, and very a man of high character. So his temptations would have came from the minister who's bought him as a slave's wife, who started like she wanted him, and at that
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
a slave being caught with a high-ranking official's wife. Can you imagine? You're probably going to be, killed
He's
for
gonna
that.
get whipped. He's gonna get the whip.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, long story short, she doesn't get what she wants because she tries to tempt him. Then she so when she gets caught with him, like trying to get in his pants, so to speak, um the minister catches them, but then she lies and says, oh, he was trying to get onto me. Then he gets thrown into jail for that. Joseph wrongly gets thrown into jail for that. um but then again, and then over time, then the king of Egypt, and it's important, king, there's a difference between a king and a pharaoh, because then that
Yeah,
tells you, when you hear the story, that allows you to know which period of Egyptian history was God talking
different
about when he
history.
talks
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
yeah,
Because
because at this
because
stage, he's talking about the king. The king has a dream. And oh, by the way, when Joseph was in prison, he had two. There were two other criminals with him there, and they realized that he's got a great interpretation like skill. You know, they got a
so
skill of
he's like
interpretation. Yeah, he can interpret
he's
like
like a
anything. Like yeah, he can
so he was
interpret
very
anything.
spiritual in nature.
Yeah, he was just a man of God, believed in God, never got tempted. Always when he was at his lowest, he always believed in God. No matter what happened to him, always believed in God. Okay, so the king, so these two guys that he was in jail with end up going to work for the king. One of them was like the cupbearer, and the other one was like I can't remember what, but something in the kitchen. And um, the king has a dream. Now all the king's people couldn't interpret the dream for the king. People that would normally be able to interpret this dream, they couldn't interpret it for him, right?
So it was
So
something
then,
deep,
yeah, it was clearly it was a deep dream or whatever that
deep
they just
dream.
couldn't interpret. Then the king is now he's not frustrated, but he's like, okay, I'm gonna open it up. Can anybody like basically interpret this thing for me? No one can. So one of the guys that were in prison with Joseph, I guess they're working for the guy now, for the king. So they hear this, and then he sees it as an opportunity to go to the prison, to go to Joseph, tells them, "Oh, this is dream. Like, can you interpret it for me?" But he doesn't tell him that it's the king's dream. It's like the king's dream because he's trying to take the credit. So Joseph tells him what the dream means, takes the dream back to the king's like, and he tells the king's like, "Oh, your dream means this." The king, obviously, the king is smart, realizes like, "Oh, actually, this dream doesn't come from you. Like, can you go and find
Yeah,
the person that you got the dream from?" You know.
yeah.
So he's forced now to go to the
To
prison,
go come back.
get Joseph
Yeah.
to get Joseph to exactly. So Joseph says, "I'll come, but only under one condition: you guys sort out that matter of why I ended up in jail. Otherwise, I won't come. I'd rather stay here in jail because you remember he
So
was
the
there
wife
falsely.
now
Just to show you how,
must
just to show you, just to show you how character, how high of character this guy is. He's like the
was of
truth
moral
first
compass.
before anything, you know.
So now the wife
So
had to come in and had to convince the wife in order.
so now before because the king wanted this dream, he had to basically call the woman in, and they all admitted that they lied, etc., etc. So now he's got his credibility back before he can come and talk to the king. Ends up interpreting the dream for the king, tells him that there's going to be seven good years of of food and like economic activity, 7 good years, and then also tells him there's going to be 7 bad years. That's what the dream basically means. And the 7 bad years is going to be a drought, and there's going to be, you know, there's not going to be any economic activity, and so
Is that's like making me imagine like a lot of things. Like
no,
my mind is
that's what it's supposed to do. That's
already
why
my
God puts
mind
these
is like
stories in there.
starting to run wild. Firstly, it's like a thing off, ne? It's like it's first is like a thing off. Do you think like because I couldn't wait to ask you this, so I had to stop you halfway
No, it's
before you
cool.
finished. So do you think that like people have like the spiritual acumen in order to understand this from that perspective? Do you think that people are
No, they don't.
spiritually conscious? They
No,
don't.
they
So do
don't.
you think that people are ever gonna truly um get this? Because surely there's good and evil in this. There's the good side and then there's the evil side. So now when you say that, obviously the good side is coming from like the element of like the average person to understand, like not the average person to understand. So doesn't it mean that the average person, like anybody like me, is just gonna be conscientized to what the evil is trying to push? Do do do
Conscientize to
do,
what
do
the evil is trying to push.
yeah, do you not believe that the person is gonna get it at such a level that what because what I'm trying to say is that most people aren't like spiritually conscious. So they don't have the spiritual acumen to understand this truly. So it means that they're not vibrating in the consciousness of the
It's
good.
because
So
people, or to answer your question in a quick way, people won't be able to decipher this because people are lazy in intellectually, in this sense that people think that they have got the world figured out, and then therefore because they think they got the world figured out, they think that whatever beliefs they have are sufficient to carry them out through their lifetime, instead of saying my belief is the beginning point of what I think life is, and I should go out there on an intellectual endeavor to try and really understand what life is. Because I think from a spiritual point of view, people think spirituality is that thing that you do on a Sunday only, and then you go about your
then you're
week
done.
again. Whereas spirituality is actually a minute by minute, second by second endeavor in your life, and you can't separate your life and spirituality. The spirituality, it's like if you understand IT, for example, spirituality is
Yeah,
like the metadata. So like if you see Google, that's what you see on the screen. That's the
on the
the
screen.
physical what you see, Google. But
Yeah.
there's metadata
Then
behind
there's a
Google.
deeper
There's
level.
coding.
Then there's a
There's
deeper level.
coding just to get what you see on the screen. There's coding behind. People don't want to understand the coding. People just want to
You
look
see,
at the.
you see, I like that example. You see, I like that example. Do you understand? Okay, let me try and like shake you off a little bit in what you're saying. So we all understand that in order to understand the deeper level to Google, you must have a certain type of knowledge. You must have like you must be an IT guy, or you must learn this type of thing and this type of thing and this type of thing. So like similarly to the Israel and Palestine thing, since people don't have the spiritual acumen in order to understand it, do you think that they're willing? Do you think there are some people who are willing to understand
I
it?
think there are people. To you know what the problem with all of this is. I'm speaking purely from a South African point of view. I'm not going to speak for other people. The problem with South Africans and a lot of South Africans is they only want to speak about this because they want to be seen to be speaking about something that's trending around the world.
True,
So
true.
so are they willing to gather the spiritual acumen? No, they're not, because to them it's just a passing story. It's just something that's trending right now, and tomorrow something else might be trending, and then so I don't really need to understand it on that level. There will obviously
Like
be people. There obviously will be people that we don't know about that are out there and they really want to understand. They're not talking every day or whatever, but they're out there. Someone like you, maybe there's some student out there, or there's some old lady sitting there in George somewhere. She really wants to understand, and the more you interrogate the situation, at whatever understanding you're at, the more you interrogate it, naturally you're
the
gonna
better in understanding you become.
you're gonna hit a ceiling where you're like, I actually need to understand the the spiritualness of this for me to really understand it. And that's why
But
God, even in the Quran, is always saying, don't you think, don't you ponder, don't you look at the signs, because he's trying to say the moment you start to intellectually exercise, na- naturally you're gonna get up to a point where it's like, okay, I've reached the bar. Now I need to
the path
understand
in logic.
spiritually for me to
So now I
understand
need
this.
to transcend. But then don't you think
Exactly.
that people have been spiritually detached to a point where that gut feeling that just doesn't come by? Because I feel like two gut feelings, I feel like there's a spiritual aspect to gut feelings, because a gut feeling is something that comes maybe from like a higher being, a higher power. Do you understand me? So like, don't you think people have been so spiritually disconnected that that gut feeling isn't going to be there, where it tells them, you know what, you need to transcend from actually reading the material things or understanding the material things, or and transcend to something that's of a higher power in understanding of this thing. you know I don't know if you understand my
No, no, I hear what you're saying. Um, yes and no. So yes, people are detached from the level that they're supposed to be attached. But there's a spiritual concept that God talked, basically saying spiritualness is about cleaning your heart. So your heart, your heart is the cleaner your heart is, the the more you can see, the more you can feel of reality, and not just seeing reality, just reality. That's seen and unseen. The
The
more
real
you are in,
reality.
yeah, no, not your reality, actual reality. So
Reality, yeah.
yeah, so it's a concept of the heart. So what happens is the more detached you become, the dirtier your heart is, so to speak, right? So picture a torch. A torch can have a, well, if you switch it on, the light is there, right? But if
Mm.
the glass of the torch is dirty, how much light is getting through?
That's gonna be dim. Oh,
But
I
there's still going to
see.
be a light. There's still light.
Like, yeah,
So meaning you
I
never
see.
really detached, because God will always have that light. But now the question is,
Oh,
how often do you clean the glass? Because,
the
and by
glass.
cleaning the glass, that's praying, that's
Yeah.
scripture, that's doing, that's doing the religious stuff. That's how you clean your heart. So then, so that's why, for
So
example, like it's weird
for
when you read
maximum light
scripture.
to go through, and for okay, I understand you. I
So
understand you. That's
exactly,
that's
and
actually
then
a
that's
great
when you start to
example.
gain clarity, because remember the light is there, but the glass is dirty. So when you clean the glass, the more light goes through, the more clarity, because now you can see more in front of you, right? Same with the heart. The cleaner your heart is by praying, by doing the spiritual stuff, the more clarity on life you have. You see,
Okay,
so
that's
so
pretty dope. Yeah.
so when you say that feeling is because people are so detached, they are detached from what they're supposed to be at the level they're supposed to be attached, but you never fully detached, because the light is there. The light is there. It's just, is the glass
You
clean
need
enough?
to
And
work the glass in order for the light
exactly.
for
So that's
maximum
why
light to
people
go through.
that's why people, no matter how far away they are from God, they can they can still know inside, this is wrong, this is right. You know?
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
however dirty your glass is what's going to determine if you take the right way, if you take the wrong way. Because imagine if you're stuck in the woods and you have a torch, but the glass is dirty. Are you really going to be able to light the way enough for you to see which way to go?
See, go. Shit, I see. I see. It's only gonna
You know,
work for
so
up till this particular distance. You won't be able to see there.
you won't be able
I
to see
see.
far. That's why spirituality, what it does is what everyone can see as Latita. Just, oh, Latita's a good looking guy. Oh my god, he's closer, he can speak. Oh, I don't know if girls are saying that to you. I don't know. But
Guess we'll
that's
never
the
know.
physical. That's the physical. But someone that's spiritual is gonna say, yeah, but the way
There's a
I can
deeper.
see, right?
This,
Exactly. So spirituality makes you see the unseen. But anyway, let me quickly get back to the Israel Palestine,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the
Before we ramp off,
so remember, so Joseph, I'm gonna go quickly through this thing now. Joseph
shout out.
um is asked to come to interpret this dream. Uh and then he interprets the dream. Basically says, listen, king, uh you are there's gonna be 7 good years and 7 bad years.
That years, yeah.
We need to, and then so the king says, okay, you come out of jail, you create the plan that's gonna help us get through this period, right? So remember, there's gonna be famine. Like the bad years is gonna be famine, no food, no nothing. So he comes up with a plan. Now, the whole region, that's including Canaan, there's no food anywhere, bro. Right? In the 7 bad years. So what happens? The brothers, remember the brothers, they come and then they come to Egypt because they hear that Egypt's the only place where you can actually get food. Right? So long story short, they come, then they finally realize that, oh, this is they didn't know initially, but over time they realize, oh, it's Joseph, the guy that we thought we killed. Joseph welcomes them, whatever. But what does that do? I'm explaining this because I'm trying to explain the Israelites thing and
Thing, yeah.
Palestinian thing. What does that do? That brings Israelites, the children of Israel, it brings them from Canaan because now they move to Egypt. Because now they found their brother. The brother is a big shot now. They thought they killed him. He welcomes them back with open arms, and they settle in Egypt. So
Yeah.
bear this in mind. Israelites are now African now because they've moved from Canaan
And
to
then yeah,
Egypt,
this
which is in
shit.
Africa,
Shit.
right? So now they're Africans now for
Hmm.
centuries. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Then
listening. I'm listening.
now the king period is over. Now the pharaoh period comes in Egypt now. The
Then
pharaoh period, the pharaoh
before
period, yeah,
before you continue, then but then I'm gonna make you drag. Okay, nah, continue, cause like I'm thinking about something else that can make you like go on a tangent onto something different. Cause in my mind is wondering. So now, how does it goes from king to pharaohs? How? Cause you're saying the pharaoh
because they
period.
see they had their political battles in Egypt at the time, and the because Egypt wasn't Egypt. Egypt was like split like into like east and like west. Like it was split up. So the pharaohs finally gained ascendancy, and that whole system of rule basically came into being where the pharaohs. That's a whole other history lesson that I think for this story, it's we can have that at another time. But
You see, that's why I said you're gonna ramp off on a.
yeah, so
So
so you have now all the Israelites, the children of Israel, and God calls them Bani Israel, children of Israel, are now in Egypt. Now they start to become oppressed by the pharaohs. The pharaohs, because remember they're foreigners. Remember they're foreigners. Interestingly enough, Joseph is also a foreigner. When they gave him that big position in government, he's
yeah,
a foreigner.
he's a foreigner.
That's
Yes,
a
because he
whole
comes
other thing now.
from yeah.
Exactly. So okay, they in Egypt they become oppressed. They become slaves because of the Pharaoh. Pharaoh. Now God sends another prophet to get them out from amongst them. Who is it? Moses. Moses.
Moses.
Moses fights the
Moses.
Pharaoh. Gets the the Israelites, not Jews. Very important to keep the Israelites thing. Not don't call them Jews. Israelites. They go
Children of
from
Israel.
yeah, children of Israel, the Israelites, because now so many centuries have gone, it's still children of Israel origin, but now it's Israelites because now they all of the kids have had kids and the kids have had
Kids,
kids and now it's
kids,
like a whole.
yeah.
So you know what I mean. So it's the Israelites now out of Africa into the now they go for the promised land, right? Okay, but then they become ungrateful along this trip, and one of the conditions to enter the promised land was to be righteous and to be truthful, and they did none of those things. So that's why God punished them for. Remember, they got punished for 40 years where they couldn't enter the promised land. Promised land being where Palestine is now, right? The Holy Land, Jerusalem. That's the promised land. That's where it's situated, right? Okay. So they wander around for 40 years because they were not righteous. Remember, they even turned on Moses, started becoming ungrateful. They were not
I'm
righteous,
grateful,
and
yeah.
that was the condition. And this is what other I feel like this is what people don't teach when they talk about the story. They had conditions to get into that promised land. It wasn't
They didn't meet
oh,
them.
God favor, because a lot of people right now say God favors the Jews. No,
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 no.
remember, God had an agreement
An
with
agreement, yeah.
Abraham to say your line is gonna be prophets and etc. 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 So that's all. That's an agreement between God and Abraham, not Jews, not Jews, Israelites.
Israelites, yeah.
The condition was be righteous and be truthful. They were not righteous and they were not truthful. That's why they got expelled. For they not expelled, but they couldn't enter for 40 years.
The promised land.
Yes. Then they finally get to enter the promised land. So what happens? The whole David and Goliath story, basically, right?
Yeah.
So then David then becomes the king of the promised land, which so now he's the king of the Israelites. So now there is a kingdom of Israel, a legit one, who is ruled by David. David is both a prophet and he's a king. That's what makes David and Solomon special, because they're the only prophets that are kings of also. They're also kings. They're not just prophets that are just sent to people and they like can't read, can't write, and they kings and they prophets. And they're known for being super wealthy and super wise, because David
Yeah.
used to even adjudicate all the cases, and Solomon after him. Okay, so now this kingdom, especially when Solomon takes over, who's the son of David. When Solomon takes over, Solomon's got the powers that no kingdom has ever had, even to this day. Is it's the most powerful kingdom by the fact that at that time no kingdom could compare to it, right? So this is King Solomon now. King Solomon had the ability to speak to animals, and he could hear them speak. He
It
could
was one with
understand them. Let me
nature.
put it that way. Huh?
It was one with nature. It was one with
Yeah,
nature. It was in harmony.
yeah. He could understand them. He could he could he the jinn, which is spirits. He could see the spirits. Like you could actually see the spirits at that time. Um, and so he was a very powerful. And he had a staff. The staff could make him move from place to place in the blink of an eye, because there was a queen that asked for his presence, and he was able to move within a blink of an eye from where he was to the queen and back, basically where like Yemen is now, right? At that time, at that time. So
Hmm.
so now the Israelites are happy because they're in the promised land. They have a king. So the kingdom of the Israelites is there. It's beautiful. Everything's going great. What God promised them, right? And remember, the other tribes are the other sons. So there's Judah, there's Benjamin, I think it's Levi. These are the names of the children of Israel, right? The original children of Israel, right? So that's their clan now. That's their clan, all those different names. Now this is where the problem. This is where now you can start to explain Israel and Palestine.
In Palestine, yeah.
Solomon has a dream. King Solomon has a dream. King Solomon has a dream that an evil, there's an evil, um, there's an evil figure that looks like a human being, but he knows that it's not a human being, but it looks like a human being, and it's sitting on his throne, acting
Mm.
as, and people can't see that that this
Is
thing
not
that's sitting on the throne is
not
evil. They
king.
think it's a
Yeah.
human being.
They think it's the same
That's
king.
the dream that he's having. Exactly, right? So because he's so scared and he knows how powerful this kingdom is, he makes a prayer to God to say, please, when I die, dismantle this kingdom.
But
When I
isn't
die.
that is wouldn't that be like selfish for the kingdom not to continue to
Is it
guide?
selfish? Remember, he's a human being. Is it selfish, or is he trying to protect his people? Because he's saying, I can see that this thing is so powerful that it's 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 gonna fool people. So rather get rid of the kingdom so that it doesn't have the power to do what it wants to do. Because remember, he's gonna rule over the most powerful kingdom. Then this thing.
But then what if somebody can argue that God is much more powerful than that thing? So obviously over time the force of good is gonna defeat the force of evil. That goes without
Okay.
saying.
Okay. So the part that I didn't tell you, and I'm glad that you asked that question, is remember Solomon could interact and see what the jinn, the spirits, were doing, and his good spirits and his bad spirits.
Yes.
So, and God always does this. He tests people by putting evil things, access to evil, to see if people are gonna tap into it. So what started happening is some of the tribes. the Levites, the Levi tribe, the Judah tribe, they tapped into this evil. They tapped
Mm,
into they started interacting with the evil spirits. So therefore, that's why we can't see spirits now, because Solomon had made another appeal to God to say, because the people are interacting with these spirits, especially the evil ones, can you make the spirits to be not seen?
not seeing. Yeah.
So that's why we can't see spirits now, because of that at that time. So
Damn.
so 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 these tribes started causing problems because now they've tapped into the evil, and they used to test the evil by causing divorces in the other tribes. See, to see if these things work.
Would you not say that that force is the force that's prevalent now in the world?
Yeah, of course. Because remember, now that's a whole other discussion on how spirits work. Because if you understand how spirits work, you'll know that spirits are basically like human beings, but they take a lifeless form and they live for thousands of years. So what ends up happening is certain evil spirits can be an evil spirit in one family for thousands of years. That's why, for
Oh,
example, you find some families even now they'll say, "Yo, we have a history of I don't know, mental health issues."
yeah, yeah,
To find that
yeah,
they've got that same spirit that's dealing with that specific line of family for thousands of years, because that spirit can exist for that long. So,
yeah. Damn. So,
so that's how you. Yeah.
so would you say that so that's the reason why people speak about things like generational curses?
Thank you.
Snap. Okay. 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 I
So now
see. I
you
see.
realize that a generational curse wouldn't be a curse if you actually just read the scripture and you understood how to deal with these spirits.
How to deal with it? Okay. I can see. Okay. Okay.
You see?
So wait. For for somebody like you who's very who has clarity onto the understanding of the spiritual element or aspect of the world, who how would you, because I'm sure that there are like thousands of people out there who are perhaps like lost in terms of like, I don't know, I grew up this way, and that type of vibe where like there was no spiritual backing, so how would you advise somebody who's like that's like out there somewhere, who's like, you know what, I don't know how to, you know
I
how
don't know
to
how to.
maneuver my way through life, like this person's dealing with a lot of like these curses, like you say, generational curses. So they don't know that the right way is the scripture, or they don't know that um which way, because a lot of people, because I once spoke to somebody, and then this person said the reason why they're not religious is because he said to me that there are many religions. That's what this person said. There are many religions out there. They don't know which one to choose. They don't know which way to go. Like, that type of vibe. So, so what I'm trying to say basically links with what I was trying to say. So, I don't know
I would.
if you can understand.
I always try to encourage people. First of all, people believe what they believe. Like, you don't be arrogant enough to think that you're just gonna convince people to just change. All I encourage people to do is whatever you believe in, take it from believing to knowing. So, which means there has to be an intellectual exercise that you're gonna have to do to take it from believing to knowing, because
So,
maybe you
knowledge.
believe because, huh?
So, knowledge.
Yeah, maybe you believe because maybe your mom or your parents are the same thing, so that's why you believe in it. Because it's like, oh, my parents,
Oh,
definitely my parents can't be
no
wrong. So
fucking ways.
what? Technical difficulties. think his battery died. We'll be back and continue the chat as I think his battery died. End of part 1.